And I have to say, April is one of the best friends I've ever had.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like we've known each other for a long time, and we've kind of been through a lot of different phases in life. You know, like college was 10 years ago now, and I feel like we've matured for sure.
Thank goodness.
Yes, we've definitely matured.
Yeah.
And I'm like so grateful that she's here today, joining me on the podcast, and like she just gave her time willingly to talk about a subject that I think is not like, I don't know, it's not easy to talk about, you know, but I think she was willing and excited and open to just sharing her thoughts about why she left Christianity. We've shifted angles, so we're gonna just rewind, go back to the beginning, and I'm gonna introduce April. This is my friend April. We met in college, so we met 10 years ago, 2014. We met in small group, and I went for all 4 years, but you.
No, I didn't go all 4 years. I went, I think, the first 2 or 3, and then I stopped going at one point.
Yeah, and it was like it was a women's group too, so it was all women, which I really liked. I think it was one of the first times that I actually was a part of like a group like that for a long time, for like an extended amount of time. Growing up, I don't know if you grew up in church.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up in church as well, but like I just feel like I didn't get connected with the youth group or anything. Did you?
I did. I think my mom was very involved in the church, and so I was as well.
Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I think we grew up maybe similar, but different. So tell us about how you grew up.
Yeah. I grew up in a household where my mom was Christian, my dad is not, and so we were raised Christian, my brother and I have an older brother, he's 2 years older. He's also struggled with his faith in his life. That's a different story. But he and I did grow up going to church. We went to youth groups. We went to VBS.
VBS, what is that?
Vacation Bible School.
Oh, I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom was in charge of like all the decorations for Vacation Bible School at our church, and she would go crazy decorating. It would just feel like you're in a completely different world whenever she decorated a room. But yeah, I grew up Christian. I really grew up believing everything in the Bible. I believed in God. I knew He was real in my heart, and yeah, He was there for me for a lot of my life.
Around, you said for a lot of your life, like at what age do you feel like you started to feel like He wasn't there so much?
Definitely college. Yeah, I think that's why I stopped going to small group.
Yeah. So in high school, you felt like you did have a relationship.
Oh yeah, in high school I chose SPU was the only school I looked at to go to. I looked at Biola as well and Azusa Pacific. Like I drove down here with my family and toured both schools, and yeah, I was like, I'm only going to go to a Christian school. So I was very dedicated. I also did a mission trip for my senior year of high school, and I went all the way to Panama.
Oh wow!
With Team Missions International. Anyone's heard of that? Yeah. So
I haven't, but
it's a cool opportunity, I think, for kids to go experience a mission trip. I don't know how I feel about mission trips. I feel like that could be a whole different podcast. I think it really depends on the organization, and I think what we did, I wouldn't condone. I wouldn't want anyone to go do that again, because we went and rebuilt the church, but I was 17 and had never built anything in my life. So I'm like, why are you sending me and a bunch of other 13-year-olds to go construct a building?
Yeah.
You know, is it really going to be last? It'd be better to teach the locals how to build it themselves. Those kinds of things. I could go on.
No, yeah. No, I think you bring up a really good point, and I've had thoughts about mission trips as well. I didn't grow up doing missions. The first time I went on a mission trip was last year in 2023, and I was, I guess, 26 at the time. So, yeah, I mean, I had kind of like an adult mindset about it, I guess. Like, where if I was a kid, I think I might enjoy it more, or have been, I don't know, maybe just a little bit more like innocent in the whole thing, and be like, oh, I'm just helping people.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, like, I had a very unique experience and a very good experience, but at the same time, I had my questions about it. I was like, okay, I don't even know if I should bring this up, but I'm just going to say it. Like, why are we going all the way to another country? It kind of feels like you're getting a bit of a vacation included in a mission capacity. Like, you're going to help people, but you're also getting to, you know, vacation in a sense.
Mhm.
Whereas like we live in LA, and I can tell you there's plenty of people that need to be helped on Skid Row. But that's my own
Yeah. No, I
tangent.
totally agree.
And again, like I understand that there are people in other countries that, you know, that it's not just about helping, quote unquote helping, but you know, we're also, I guess, giving them a unique experience, and we're talking about the word, and you know, there's so many things involved. But I digress. So
I'm like,
maybe
new podcast topic.
yeah. So actually, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about mission trips.
Yeah.
But no, no, I'm thankful, especially for the people who I went with. But okay, so we met in college, and then so April in college, because I remember so the first year we didn't live on the same floor, which April just told me right before this podcast, because I was like, wait, how did we meet? Like, it feels like so
It's
long
hard to remember
ago.
because it was literally 10 years ago.
It was a long time ago. It was
We're
a really
old.
long time ago. Yeah, we're getting old. So, in any case, we did not live on the same. So we lived in a dorm setting. I think for me, not all 4 years. My first 2 years, and then my that's it. Moved out after that.
SU required us to live
Yeah.
in the dorms for the first 2 years.
Yeah. I moved back home my junior year and commuted, which was terrible. But then my senior year, I moved in with some friends. So anyway, first year we didn't live on the same floor, but then second year we did.
We did.
And we also went to this women's group I think it was every Tuesday night until, I don't know why I remember that, but
Yeah. That sounds
I think
great.
it was every Tuesday night. But anyway.
Don't remember how we met, but small group was Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had a really, like, we had very young leaders. I remember that too.
They were so young. Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember turning their age and thinking, like,
Yeah.
how are they leading us? Not that they did a great job, and
Mhm.
I really enjoyed having them as our small group leaders.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was like, whoa, the blind leading the blind. Just no
What?
offense, I'm just kidding.
I think that's really funny though. I mean, because we were so young. Like, I think our leaders were 26 and we were like 17, 18 years
Really?
old.
Were they 26? I thought
Even
one of them was
younger?
younger than that. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
I think one of them was younger.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I could be wrong.
yeah. I loved their personalities. I remember
Yeah.
that Danny was hilarious.
Yeah, she's so
She was just cracking jokes, and I remember Rachel was like a straight up truth teller.
She's very passionate. Very,
Yeah.
very passionate. Yeah,
Her
her story
says-
is interesting, and I think it caused her to be a really passionate Christian. I'm sure she still is.
Mhm.
But it was cool to get to know her. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the catalyst for, you'd say, like, kind of leaving small group? Maybe we can start there.
Yeah, I think throughout college, I saw, it's kind of the only time that you're around so many people your age doing the same things as you, and especially if you're at a Christian university, there's a lot of young Christians there trying to be the best Christian or the better Christian, I felt. And I felt a lot of people were really inauthentic. But at first, it sort of made me feel insecure about my relationship with God and the kind of Christian that I was. And so I tried really hard to develop a very intentional and deep relationship with God, because I just wasn't feeling it. Like, I didn't feel like I had what everyone else had, what I was seeing around me every day. I actually met up with Rachel weekly outside of small
I
group.
think I remember you saying
Yeah,
that.
to talk about my faith and God and like how I can, get a deeper relationship. I have like journal entries about like
Hello, bird. The birds.
the birds. No,
They're here.
I have a lot.
Everyone's here.
I have a lot of entries on like why, like, please, I just want to know you. I just want to be with you, and I just never really felt authentically connected to God. I just never did, and at some point it gets really exhausting trying to like have a relationship that's not there. I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate trying to like force a friendship or force a romantic relationship. It's exhausting.
Mhm.
It's hard. If it's not there, it's not there. That's just kind of how I felt. So I was like, I'm just going to take a step back from like trying so hard. So that's how I initially sort of, there wasn't a specific turning point. I think it's just over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you decided to take a step back, did you feel a sense of like relief, or what did you feel?
I think it was hard because a lot of my family is Christian, and so my grandma would like cry about it, and like my mom would be going to church, and she's like, "Oh, you should come to church with me," and like I don't really want to. It was kind of a big deal for my family, but yeah, I think I was sort of, it made me sad, it just made me feel really unsure of myself, but I would say now I feel a lot of peace about it. Yeah, I feel all right. I feel all right.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I mentioned before that I also want to bring up is like, now that April and I met as Christians, right? I'm still a Christian today, and she has decided not to be a Christian, but I don't feel that it has affected our relationship negatively.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will say, like, I had a lot of friends actually growing up who decided that they didn't want to be Christian. That was like probably something that happened quite a bit in high school for me, where people are just kind of like, yeah, that's not what I want to do anymore. And I did experience a sense of loneliness. And I think it was also because I was so young that I was like, oh, everyone's leaving this thing that I believe in. What happens if I'm the only one left? And I think like for me, Christianity, like it felt like, you want to feel your authentic self in front of everybody, right? And it's like really important to feel like you can share all sides of yourself with hopefully all people. I mean, it depends, because obviously things take time, but with your friendships, your close friendships, you want to feel like you're being your authentic self, and that means like you're not hiding certain parts of you away. And I will say that I feel like there have been times with my friends who have decided not to be Christian. I'm like, oh, can I even talk about this anymore, right? Like, will they be offended if I bring this up? Will they be offended if I want to pray over my meal? Will they feel like I'm being disrespectful if I, bring up God or I pray or anything like that? And so I will say that in my friendship with April, something that I've really appreciated is that she still respects and kind of like honors the relationship that I still have. It's a very there's a lot of respect there that I feel like is, she could be like, screw this, I'm not a part of it anymore, so like you shouldn't be either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are those people who are like try to like kind of take you away from something that they left, and I just admire, I guess, the kind of strength and the character to be like, I chose not to do this, or I chose not to believe in this anymore, but I still respect you for what you choose to believe in. I think I think that's really cool. And also I want to say too, like, I just had a birthday last weekend. Me and April treated me to brunch and brought me a little plant.
Plants are my love language.
Yeah, and I'm starting to love plants now too. I don't know if we're going to do the video because, girl, this hair, it started off like great, and now it's not.
No, it looks great.
There's just so much moisture in the hair.
It does feel humid today. It does. In the
Whatever.
hair.
We're just gonna let it be. Let it ride. Let it free. So what was I saying? Gosh.
Just how great I am, and
right. Yes. So for my birthday, I hung out with April. I also hung out with Amaris, who is here behind the camera. So shout out to her. She's our awesome camera woman today. So I met up for brunch with April, and I remember her saying, like, do you want to pray over before we ate our meal? And I almost forgot, to be honest. I was just about to dig in. But the fact that she brought it up, I thought was really cool. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like our friendship, I feel like it hasn't been an issue in our friendship. Yeah. So like on an individual, like for you individually, do you feel like, because a lot of our friends were kind of Christian, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Some of our close friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I still have a lot of Christian friends.
Yeah.
It has no effect on me. I appreciate on your side, it's not like it's something that's being pushed on me either. Like, where I stand, and there is that respect where you're like not trying to be like, well, you should come back to church, or like, let me pray for you, or like, making me feel bad for not being Christian anymore. So I feel like there's this mutual respect that like I believe what I believe, and you believe what you believe, and it doesn't have to be this negative thing between us. So I do think there are some Christians that hear that you're not Christian and they want you to be really badly. And I would have a problem with that. I think you would maybe see me be a little bit more like, ooh, please don't do that.
Right.
But you don't, and I think that we have a really good relationship because of the mutual respect that we have. But
Yeah.
I don't think it impacts us negatively. I think for me, the way I see friendship is if something's important to you, something brings value to your life, like I 100% want that for you and respect that for you, and I'm happy that you're happy, and that's all that matters to me. And so if praying before a meal is something that you do, and I know that you do that because I grew up doing that, and it's important to do, it doesn't hurt me at all to close my eyes and be thankful for the meal in front of me or the friendship in front of me.
Yeah. Oh, I like how you said that. That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intentionality behind being Christian, and a lot of really beautiful things that come out of being part of a Christian community that I loved and I think are really important for everybody to have in their life, whether you're Christian or not. And so those parts of it I really, really value. It's just, for me, the idea of God, I just cannot say with 100% certainty that I believe he's real. I just don't know. And that is where I stand. I think the values of Christianity are great. I think some people, obviously, you can take anything too far one way or the other. I think balance is important, of course. Yeah. I say that about everything. But, yeah, for me, I just don't know if there's a big guy in the sky. I don't know.
And it's interesting, like, I wasn't even planning on going into this, but I think, like, people experience God differently, and I thought it was very interesting how you were saying that you were actively pursuing a relationship with God at one point, and maybe did you feel like it wasn't being reciprocated in the way that you were trying so hard?
I just felt like I was so anxious in college. Like, I dealt with a lot of mental health in college, and in my life, I think I've definitely gotten a lot better at managing it. But yeah, I really didn't feel that God had my back. So I was like, I don't hear you, I don't see you, I don't feel you with me, I don't feel like I'm trying my hardest, Yeah, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel his presence at all.
Thank you, camerawoman Amaris, for the note about my voice level. I will speak up going forward. I think I'm also a little cold, and so when you're cold, you get tight, and then your voice. Yeah,
maybe you want to put your sweater on?
I do, but I don't. For continuity purposes, I don't want to put it on. Yeah,
then they will know we're weak.
I'm taking a hit for you guys, just so you know. I am cold. But, and it's funny because I told April, I was like, bring a sweater. And I did bring a sweater, but I almost knew, even bringing it, that I wasn't going to use it. So, anyway, I digress again. So, yeah, no, I think, like, it's interesting because, like, even though I am a little cautious always. Like, I never, like you said, I'm never trying to be, like, pushing Christianity on you. But then sometimes when you talk about how you didn't feel his presence, or you pursued and you felt like it wasn't reciprocated in the way that you'd hoped for, it does make me sad.
Yeah.
Like, it does. It makes me sad because I just feel like you are such an intentional person in general. Like, just because I know, obviously I wasn't there when you were writing journal entries, but I know how you are with the people who you love, and so it's just one of those things where I'm like, I just, I feel like I feel upset on your behalf.
Oh, no.
I know how it feels when you're like, I've tried and this person doesn't have my back in the way that I want.
Yeah.
Even with a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like, it's hard in friendships with real people, but with somebody who you can't even physically see or talk to, that's hard.
The person who they say is your creator.
Yeah, who's supposed to love you with their whole heart, and like, you're their child, and it's like, oh man, but where are you? I mean, I think that, like, I didn't feel his presence, but it's just gotten to a point in my life now where, like, I just don't think he's real. Or I don't know if he's real. Like, I totally believe there could be a great creator. I just have no idea, and I don't know how to believe that. I don't know how to believe that. Yeah. I think I would need some, like, hard evidence.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm just too logical of a person to, like...
I mean, honestly, to be honest, this is a really good segue into the scripture that if you don't mind, I'm going to share this scripture, because I feel like when you said something about evidence, that's like one of the, I feel like, top reasons people that I've talked to or heard from. It's like, where's the evidence, you know? Because it's like, we talk about, for me, I feel like a lot of the things that I have, my basis is like it's like faith, you know, it's like faith in something I don't see and I don't hear. Although I will say, I'm not going to go into the whole story right now, but I did hear God's voice once when I was a very little girl, audibly out loud. And so I feel like there was that one tangible thing for me that brought me back to like, oh, this being that I'm being told about feels real to me because I heard a voice out loud. But I want to say too, like, we all hear God differently or experience him differently. And for some people are like, well, I just need some concrete evidence. And if I don't have that, I'm not going to waste my time, basically. Okay, so this is John 2:13-22. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all of this?" Jesus answered to them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." They replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words that Jesus had spoken. So when I was like coming up with like an outline for this episode, I asked God, I was like, I don't know what scripture goes with today. And I felt like this was just like dropped in my mind. And like sometimes I have to be like, is this God or is this just my brain? Like, I have intrusive thoughts, so I don't know. But it's interesting because when I was actually pulling the scripture apart, like there were a lot of reasons in there for why I feel like people do get discouraged about Christianity. For one, turning the church into a market, church corruption and corrupt people. Then where he says, prove your authority that you can do all this. So that to me says, well, if God has authority, why do bad things happen? Which is something that I hear a lot. Or more specifically, why have bad things happened to me? And then another point in the scripture, what sign can you show us? Again, like an unbelief or like there's not tangible evidence for this existence. And then it has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days. And that to me says, well, how are things going to be different? Because I've already experienced the past. I've already experienced I've had experiences and they've jaded me, or they've affected me, or they've affected my perspective. So it's interesting to see like, well, that happened, that took so long, and now you're saying you're going to do it in only 3 days. So that to me is like, well, people are discouraged because they're discouraged by what they've experienced. You know what I mean? And then the last point, after he was raised from the dead, implying that he was dead for a time, that's like the feeling of absence, like a void, like he's just not here.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone has their reasons. Definitely. Those are some good ones. I think those are like, there's some serious ones.
Do you feel like you relate to some of those?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to look at the picture as a whole, but I think, like I said, primarily for me, it's just the belief, the evidence piece. I think I understand the part about like why bad things happen. I know that's a hard one for, like, my dad has a hard time with that. He's like, okay, well, why do all these terrible things happen in the world? Like, aren't you supposed to love us and take care of us? And so I know people who have a hard time with that, but I kind of understand it a little bit. Another thing I would say is, like, there's a lot of different information out there. Like at SPU, we were in a lot of Bible classes, and every professor I had something different to say about the Bible, what's true, what's not true. And that was hard for me too, because I'm like, I need strong, like, solid evidence. I want everyone to believe the same thing. that would make the most sense to me if we were all on the same page. But
Right.
everyone's on different pages, and I was like, this is so confusing. Like, it just sounds made up at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I struggle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you stand today with it? Like kind of the same, or?
Yeah, today I don't pursue a relationship with God. I don't know if he's real or not. I believe he totally could be. I just don't know that myself. I'm happy to go to church. Like, I've been to church with Aliha a few times. I've been with my mom. I've been with my friend Candace. I don't mind going. Like, I like going, and I'm open to conversations, but I'm not actively pursuing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'm so glad that you're in my life.
Aw.
And yeah, I mean, I'd like to believe that God brought you my way.
I know.
Because, yeah, I just feel like there's been so much growth in our friendship.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like I remember when we met, and I don't know, we had some things that needed to change. I'll speak for myself. I feel like
we did. I did too.
yeah, but I really love how things have developed.
Me too. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.